lie. Welcome to the Players Lounge.
Welcome to the 48-Hour Rule, a UteNation Podcast. The 48-Hour Rule is now in effect. Everybody, welcome back to another episode of the 48-Hour Rule. As usual, I'm your host, Alex Markham. This week, I'm joined by a whole slew of guys, the typical in Zack Moss and Derek Tuimauga. And also this week, we have Golden Whetman and Micah Bernard, who has been on another one of our podcasts with us, but he's jumping on this one now. So, boys, welcome.
Appreciate it.
Good to be here.
What's up,
fellas? Absolutely. So, when it comes down to it, Golden, Micah, unique name for the podcast, right? Plenty of people would look at it and be like, what in the hell are they even talking about, right? Everybody knows full and well the 48-hour rule, especially if you played at the University of Utah. It's definitely evolved over the years, right? When Zack and Derek were on their first time or two, they, kind of shared some fun experiences. So, before kicking into everything for this week, we're going to kick it to the young guy of the group, and I'm not talking Micah, I'm talking Golden. Golden, man, what did the 48-hour rule mean to you with how unique it was?
I would say from my seat, it was a little bit unique in that I was a kicker. So for me, it had less to do with the preparation of the week leading into the game, but it had more to do with where am I going to put my mind at? Where does my body need to be in order to perform? When I played, it was under Coach McBride, and very superstitious guy, loose lips, sink ships type guy. And so for us, it was more about removing the distractions. It was having a good understanding of what the game is going to entail and how are you going to be prepared walking into that. And so for me as a kicker, punter, kickoff guy, it was all about being calm, reducing the nerves, right? Understanding where I'm going to contribute to the game. Areas where I can not just be a field player, but be a good teammate. And so the 48-hour rule to me, even though we didn't really call it out like that specifically, it was spending the night before at the Marriott, getting the right massage and treatment that we did, and really just being around the guys, understanding that it's game time. And so when you start thinking about elite athletes, it's all about specific intent. And for us, it was, hey, I'm locked in. I'm ready to show up, and I'm going to go in with specific intent, and I'm going to bust somebody's ass. I'm going to do what I need to on the field. So for me, the 48-hour rule is all about me dedicating what I'm going to do, my contribution, and being around my guys.
So along with that, definitely when it comes down to it, I know Kyle Beck has shared over the years plenty of fun little stories of, during that time, everybody's bonding as well, right? So I don't know if you have or if you can share like general gists of any funny flashbacks that, you can just think of just interactions with teammates during that time when everybody's bonding.
I don't know if I want to share that as opposed to the unique guest speakers that McBride and his very interesting personality would bring. I would say the most colorful people that he had would be Coach Majerus. Coach Majerus would show up, and if I'm not mistaken, he lived at that hotel.
Yeah.
And the stories and the way that guy would get us hyped was way different than you'd get from Kyle Whittingham as the defensive coordinator, or, Coach Lee as the offensive coordinator, and then even McBride. But then also Frank Layden. Frank Layden came and spoke to us multiple times. And I'll tell you right now, I don't even know if there's ever been the amount of swear words in the history of the state of Utah that came out of Frank Layden's mouth. That guy was hilarious, and he dropped every bomb you can think of. So
he was a New York Catholic. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll tell you where that added value, though, right? You think about these are very successful guys. I mean, Frank Layden coached Stockton and Malone, like very, very integral to their contribution to the Utah Jazz. But he understood what we needed to do. And I think it also lightened the mood, right? Because it wasn't so super serious, but he's dropping that colorful language, getting us all hyped up. So I would say those are two of my most memorable things. The other thing was I roomed with Dave Revel, and that dude would never let me sleep. He wanted to talk my damn ear off all night, and I'm like, dude, I gotta go to bed. I gotta wake up. Like, so that was a fun, unique, interesting part of my experience. So,
was he as crazy as some of the stories that I've heard over the years?
Nah, Dave's a stud. So I don't got anything but positives to say about Dave, other than he talked my damn ear off. So, but good story, man. Walk on, ends up, starting safety. Dave's just a class act, top shelf human. So not going to speak anything about his craziness.
I love the stuff that you're talking about with Revel. When it comes to the guest speakers, that's so unique. I've heard a good amount of some of those stories over the years, especially with, just side conversations with Coach Mack, man. And it's it would have been awesome being in the room on some of those, and even just some of the damn pep talks that McBride would try to do, where they just made absolute no sense whatsoever.
There's plenty of those. In fact, the most memorable one I have of McBride was, and this is funny story of the guys that I played with specifically, but McBride, he would shake a lot, and you never knew if he was just shaking because he's shaking or if he's just pissed off at the whole entire world. But he was trying to motivate us one time, and he was talking to the entire team, and he wanted us to, and I quote, act like a bunch of rabid dogs trying to get apples. So the question is, hey, Zach, Micah, how motivated would that get you to just become a dog to go get some apples?
Nah, I'm not motivated at all.
Yeah.
I don't know if that'll work much.
And it didn't work. But let me tell you who it did work. The biggest redneck that we had on the team. He's in the back screaming, yeah, let's go. And the rest of us are looking around like, what the hell just happened? That was the worst motivational speech I've ever had in my life. So, yeah, McBride was king of those, but that's the one that sticks out in my memory the most.
Who was the guy in the back yelling, yeah, let's go?
Of course, you ask me right now, and I can't remember his name. He was our center. His last name was White. He was from Vernal, Utah, middle of nowhere. He couldn't bench press 225 twice. But I'll tell you right now, if you were in an alley and you needed somebody to be there to fight with you, that's the dude that is going to die for you. So, of course, when Mac says dogs chasing apples, he's the guy that resonated with, because other than that, he had zero weight room strength, but he was a killer on the field. So, we all know those guys. There's the weight room warriors, and then there's the guys that just step up and play football.
Zach, Derek, we kind of heard Cal talking about this, right? I swear we did recently.
No, I remember when I was on the podcast, he said that too. So
that's right, Micah. Yeah, that was the post game, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. and then we'll kick over to Micah in a second here. But Golden Man, were you on the team when he was? I can't remember if you were or not when he was trying to prove a point by deadlifting and he couldn't do it, and so he had to get the support staff on each side trying to help lift him and motivate it.
Yeah, are we talking about McBride? No,
McBride.
No.
Yeah.
I don't remember that, but boy, if I couldn't see that, he could barely walk, let alone try to deadlift. That is shocking. So to give you context, McBride drove a golf cart around the practice field to get from offense to defense. He didn't walk, he drove. So him trying to deadlift, I would love to be a fly on the wall and see that.
There's that, and then I think there was like some toy bus story that I heard about at one point too. But man, that we could do 10, 20 hours of podcasting just talking about some of his antics, man. It's some of the best.
For sure.
Micah, man, 48-hour rule. What did it mean to you?
That's a great question. I mean, the biggest thing was about keeping it a family. So, the 48-hour rule, when Coach Witt used to say that to us, it was just more so like, okay, we got to lock in, but how do you lock in? The way we locked in was we came together as a team. We called it the 48-hour mix, where we go to a teammate's house and we mix or whatever, drink kava, have some fun. Not even fun, just chill, relax, and be together. Because in order to be a team, you have to have a brotherhood. And that's the biggest thing we were trying to preach with our culture, was having a brotherhood. So every time, 48-hour rule, meet up at a teammate's house, we relax, we chill, we get our mind off of things, and, become one another. So, like I said, you got to be a brotherhood to be a great football team, and that's how we did it. And then on Fridays, for me, right before that, it was just like, okay, cool. I got to make sure I know this playbook. So now I got to lock in. I'm doing extra film work because tomorrow's game day. I got to know every single play. I hate messing up the play. I don't like being wrong. So that's when the locking in personally came in with the 48, was just making sure I got in the film room. I looked at the play sheet, knew everything I had to do. And then Saturday, sleep. Sleep. That's number one for me. I sleep all day, every day. I woke up today at like maybe 12. So, if I sleep, that's getting my mind right, getting my mental right.
How to be that age again and be able to sleep like that. Jeez. Hey, I love that you mentioned the 48 mix, man, because dude, every week we got to have Kava on this, man. Every week. So, Derek's been slacking. He did it the first episode of this, man, and ever since then he's slacked, and the Greeks had to pick it up. So,
but Derek, he's drinking it out of a glass.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like,
wow. I know. I need the solo cup. My bad.
I'm headed out right after this to go. So it's to Micah's point, like, one of the coolest things is just the alumni effect of it. I'm just in a group chat with 6 other guys that played at different times, and just like, where we at tonight? And like, I think a huge part that Micah said was like, there's a brotherhood effect where if you can lock in together, that really transcends into life. Way beyond just when the playing days are done. And so it's a beautiful tradition with Utah football, for sure.
For real. Well, so guys, let's kick into everything. We got Zack back on here after some of the technical difficulties. Your boy didn't grab the iPad again, did he?
No, I don't know why, but like every time someone calls me on this iPad, it just like kicks me all the way out of this thing here. And I've had this dude was in working on my water softener, and he forgot to turn on the hot water. And then my wife texted me that the hot water's not on.
The hot water.
Oh no.
Yeah, so I gotta run downstairs. But he called me to let me know, and I'm like, okay, great. I don't have no energy. All good now. All good.
No worries, man. No worries. Well, boys, so Utah, they got back on track after Texas Tech. Difficult game. Texas Tech is the better team. Devin was hurt. Okay, not completely himself, but still, Texas Tech won that fair and square. They're a top 10 team for a reason, right? Now Utah goes into West Virginia, does what they need to do. Devin shows that he's at least on the right track with getting healthier, right? And was able to put a good foot forward and go into the bye week. So big game this coming Saturday. I joke around calling it Pac-12 after dark because it's still nostalgic, right? It's not like, oh, get us back in the Pac-12. It's just nostalgic to think about. Those times are fun. And against ASU, how do you guys expect the guys to respond after a bye week, now that knowing that they were able to get back on that right track and the offense was able to show a little bit more life than they had in previous weeks as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard just because, there was a lot of injuries, a lot of guys becoming injured, and you want the bye week to get guys healthier, but you don't want to take a step back. And that's the hard part about it. You don't want to go too hard in practice, but you want to make sure you're keeping the physicality up and making sure you're ready for this coming week. And so, I think if we started the week last week, lightly, and then, push it up a little with physicality, we should be on the same track. There should be no setbacks. It is hard not playing the game, but like I said, Coach Witt does a great job of making sure everybody's ready to go, and he knows how to keep everybody up to date with what they need to do with their bodies and stuff. So I think there should be no setbacks this week, and they should be good.
Zach, let's hear your thoughts on it.
Yeah, Coach Witt does do a great job of making sure guys are always ready when you're coming out of those bye weeks. It's usually never like an actual bye week where it's just like you're not doing nothing and you kind of get away from football a little bit, things like that. But I think obviously you kind of still have to worry a little bit in the sense of they've obviously had the slow starts in a lot of the games, even without bye weeks, right? So when you're practicing at full tilt, right, and you've already keep having slow starts offensively at least, it kind of you still have to look at that and assume that is a possibility and a high possibility, right? So that's kind of why I'm looking at it as is kind of to see how fast these guys start, because now at this point of the year, right, was it 4 or 5 games in, this is essentially their second half of the season, right? So It's a whole different gear that you kind of got to kick into. The team is what the team is, right? It's not going to change anymore. We kind of talked about a lot of the explosiveness of the offense and the lack of, anyways. And none of that's going to change, really, right? The team is who the team is. Your identity is who they're going to be right now. So, would love to see them actually understand who they are now, and obviously things be tailored that way. And obviously, there's some new injuries also that's going to be coming out of this bye week as well. That's going to impact the team. So for me, it's just kind of seeing how they just start, right? That's on both sides of the ball, mainly offensively, because they've had the slow starts when they didn't have a bye week.
Sure. Derek, how you feeling about the trenches coming out of the bye week, man? And what are you wanting to see?
Yeah, no, I think they left heading into the bye week on a really good note. I think the offensive line got some things moving. I think the defensive line played extremely well against West Virginia. And so for me, really needing to put some pressure on Arizona State's quarterback, Sam, is it Leavitt?
Yeah.
And just with Tyson, that wide receiver that is just balling. I think if we can put pressure there, that's going to help our defensive backs, because they're going to have their hands full with that matchup. I think last year they really connected well, had a touchdown, and ultimately I think that was a difference maker for Arizona State to win last game. And so the last matchup, excuse me. So really excited just to see how we play on the defensive line to put pressure on Sam Leavitt, and then also offensive line. They were humming against West Virginia. It'll be exciting to see kind of how they continue to move forward from that point.
Yeah. So Utah's had a couple guys dinged up on the, in the middle of the defensive line, man, right? A defensive tackle. We don't know the full health of Dallas Vakalahi. He came back. He's been dinged up all year, and went down. It looked like he kind of re-aggravated what he had going on. Obviously can't go into specifics on it unless I want to get my hand slapped, right? But how confident are you in the young defensive tackles with the body work that they've shown so far, and especially kicking into some tougher games now?
Yeah, that's going to be some areas that I'm really focused on seeing, is how those younger interior defensive linemen really show up for this game. We know that we should be healthy on the edges, and I think in the middle, the area that those young interior defensive linemen will need to show up is in run support, number one. And so it'll be interesting to see early on if Arizona State does go on the ground game. Thank goodness they don't have Cam or they don't have Scat this year. But to see how they hold up that line of scrimmage, and that how well they can displace the offensive linemen to make plays. And so I think they've shown glimmers of, definitely talent and what they can do, but it'll be interesting to see how they take this step.
Yeah, you mentioned Cam Scattaboo. I'll say this, okay, guys, and Zach, I'd love to hear your take on this before jumping over to Golden on some stuff here. But man, to me, I'm more worried watching Utah go up against somebody like Raleek Brown than I am Scattaboo, because if you go and you look back at the tape last year, Scattaboo, where he got a lot of his yards last year, were just really poor tackling. And then, break a tackle or two, just really weak attempt near the line of scrimmage, and then it's daylight, right? So I feel like somebody like Raleek is somebody that's going to cause a lot more issues for Utah's type of defense.
Yeah, he's dynamic. They use him really well. I actually know him when he was coming out of high school, and he was really, really highly touted back. And obviously he's in different schools and stuff like that, but he's healthy this year, which is something that he haven't been really in a while. So yeah, he's different. He's smaller. He can do a lot of different things, and I think maybe one of those matchups where they get him some linebackers that they like, right? Really haven't seen our linebackers in man-to-man coverage versus somebody who is essentially, this specific, this talented, I should say. And it kind of reminds me a little bit. He doesn't remind me of the Texas Tech back, but the Texas Tech back had a lot of success getting the ball in space. And Raleek is definitely a guy who can do a lot of different things when he gets the ball in space.
It's funny that you mentioned that you knew him when he was younger, because if I remember correctly, Utah was his first offer in high school. So,
okay.
I remember him, peppering Utah quite a bit back then. He was like sophomore, maybe, but he was talented, and then he flirted with coming with Utah and joining the backfield with Micah last year. From what I had heard, that was a pretty close thing to happening, before Arizona stepped in and was able to convince him to go over there, like they were able to, step in with Leavitt and convince him to go over there too instead of Utah. So, so that's going to be something I'm really intrigued to watch. Because I'm more worried about those type of running backs against Utah's defense than somebody like Scatterby. Golden.
Hold on,
very
Alex,
curious.
before you jump in. I think we would be remiss not to flip it with both Micah and Zach on the call to talk about one. This is ASU, right in the thick of Phoenix, right? Hot temperatures. I don't know what the temperature is there right now, but Zach can speak to being from Florida, Micah, and sunny California. It's going to be temperature in the 40s. It's going to be gusty winds. It's going to be soggy conditions. We got one of the best O-lines in the entire country. I would highly bet we're going to run the ball a lot. I would highly bet ASU is going to have to try to do the same thing, right? I don't know if you guys all saw the video of Dillingham squirting water on the ball while Leavitt's trying to throw, I don't know, small little drag routes or whatever route that was. But I would love to hear these guys' opinion on that part of the game, right? Because you guys came from perfect weather to state of Utah. You never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, no, it's different. And, when I first got here and seen how cold it got and the snow, playing in the snow for the first time, touching the ground when it's frozen, I'm like, ain't no way I decided to come and play football here. But I'm like, if I can do it here, I could do it anywhere. That's the reason I, decided to end up coming to Utah. That was one of the reasons. So, it's going to be different playing in Arizona. Every time I went out there, it's super humid and hot. And I'm like, okay, this is normal though, because, I'm coming from the cold, so I can do this. So, but doing it the opposite way is going to be different. I don't know. I seen the video you're talking about of him squirting the ball. So, they're preparing for it, but it ain't nothing like it when you get here, and it's totally different.
Yeah. Cold and wet is definitely a different ball game. Dealing with just one of those you can figure out a way. But when the ball is cold and it's wet, man, that's tough. Obviously, I think we're gonna run the ball too. I think coming out of the bye week, that's the best way to just get a couple first downs, get guys just kind of back into the groove of the game and stuff like that. Trying to throw that ball in those conditions is probably not going to benefit anybody really. So I'm sure we'll see, a lot of both the backs and Dampier running a lot. I don't know how well that bodes for Arizona State. Obviously, they're a little bit more pass happy. We've talked about the dude out there that they have, and he's really, really good. But how much of a impact does he have with this weather? It's gonna be hard when you throw the challenge of the weather in there to see how much Arizona State can play to their style and really test our DBs. But I think our offensive line, this is another game, right, for them to kind of just keep moving that Texas Tech taste out of their mouth and really go and impose their will in conditions that work for us, right? We play in this every single year, right? These are things that and it's always, in a sense, it's a competitive edge for us. When you were playing in the cold, when I was in Buffalo, and Buffalo's a different ball game than playing football in Utah. But our coach McDermott would always talk about how much of a competitive edge it is for us. Like, this is something that we do, right? And to your point about it with the two teams, right, coming from two different places, right? When the Dolphins would come up to play us in the back end of December, right, we already knew that they were going to tap out by the second quarter. Like, that was just a given, like every time you played them, right? But at the same time, it was the same thing when we went out to them early in the year, like September, right? But yeah, so it's going to be in our favor for sure, and the guys just got to go out there and go do it.
Zach, it's funny that you mentioned the stuff with Arizona State's passing game likely being more prevalent than Arizona State's running game, okay? Because, most people would think that with Leavitt and with Tyson being there is a guy that everybody's assuming is going to be a first-round NFL draft pick. I mean, the guy's an animal, right? But crazy enough, it's their rushing offense that is much more highly rated right now with, when it comes into the statistics, right? They're the 20th ranked rushing offense. They're the 87th ranked passing offense. To put it into perspective for you, and this is, and I was talking with my buddy, Ho Rabino. He's the publisher for Devil's Digest. The one thing with Arizona State so far this year is Leavitt has been so dependent on Tyson. And that's been an issue. They've got a kid coming back from injury that came over from Fresno State, I want to say. He played the first game, got hurt, and he's been out. So he'll be back, and so that could change it now. And I know that they're eager about that because they feel like that's going to fix a lot of things. But yeah, kind of unique. And to put it in perspective, Arizona State being the 87th ranked statistical passing offense right now, Utah of all teams, even though we harp on, we haven't seen the deep ball yet, right? We haven't seen enough chunk plays. Utah's actually 70th, which not great, but it's actually higher than Arizona State. And so that actually kind of really surprised me when I mean,
for me, stats always don't tell the whole story. Because, obviously, if there's a stat, which I'm sure there's somewhere out there where you can find which one of the offenses are a little bit more explosive, right? I think Arizona State is going to have that. And, obviously, it makes sense a little bit why Utah is ranked a little higher. Like, we've always spoke about them being more efficient, right? Sometimes when offenses are just built around explosives, it leaves out, efficiency. So to your point with Leavitt, kind of depending on Tyson just game in and game out, you kind of forget about all the other guys, right? Something that's always worked for us this season so far is we've been able to use everybody. Right. So that's going to allow us to be a little bit more efficient and, and all those different things, kind of be up on the charts a little bit. Right. But with a style offense like that, right, where all it takes is 2-3 plays to put up 20, 21 points on you real fast. And the way our offense is built is not, we don't want that style, right? We want to be able to keep everything in front of us and just make sure everybody's getting to the ball on defense, right? You don't want to have guys in one-on-one cover versus a guy like that, right? If a quarterback is that dependent on a receiver, and we don't really technically have any just super marquee corners, right? Just not super, guys with just names out there, right? So if I'm an offensive coordinator, if I'm looking at our defense and, we don't really have weaknesses, but there are things out there you can test, and they haven't seen a receiver like this, and they haven't seen a quarterback who's just going to give him opportunities, right? So like that for me, like stats, I'm like, that's a great stat because it is true. Now you got to obviously look at that, but at the same time, when it comes to the explosive plays, right, it's not like they're just dinking and dunking and guys are making run up the catch yards and things of that nature. It's like these dudes are really going 50, 60 yards, and these dudes are making crazy plays, and they can be explosive at the snap of a finger. And our offense does not have the ability to, come back from something like that just over and over and over. But I think our defense will be up for the challenge regardless. We've seen what they did to the Texas Tech team, right? Into the back end of the fourth quarter where they just didn't get any help from the offensive side of the ball. But, yeah, so that's my only thing about it is just like those explosive numbers, I'm sure they're probably a little bit higher than 87th. And you just got to look at it from that standpoint because, this dude, Tyson, he can make plays. Like, he can legitimately make plays, and you'll be down 14-0, and it's a quick 3-and-out, and it's something that happens again, and they get up really fast when you're playing these super explosive teams.
Yeah, you said it. There's the human element to these things too. Everybody gets so focused on stats nowadays, right? And the old Chicago Cubs manager, Joe Madden, the reason he was so successful, the reason they were able to win the World Series, break that 108-year-old damn curse. I'm a Cubs fan. So was because he took the analytical approach, but he took that gut feeling too, right? And so, yeah, you're exactly right that, when it comes to this stuff, stats don't always tell the whole thing. There's also like the level of competition that they've played, and so on and so forth, right? But it's the other thing you mentioned too. Talking about Utah's cornerbacks, the thing I'm going to be really intrigued to see is, how often is Scooby Davis lined up against Tyson, or do you have Smith Snowden spy Tyson the entire time? If that happens, this could be one of those games that is a big film game for Smith Snowden that could really elevate him and make him a lot of money, potentially, because I know everybody's kind of talked about the potential of him being able to be one of those 3-and-done guys, so that could, between those two guarding him, that's who I would expect. That's going to be a very interesting matchup. And it's funny because not enough people have heard about Snowden on defense this year. It's been more offense. And to me, I think a lot of that, and you guys can speak of this, but, his name just hasn't really been mentioned on defense because he's that good of a defender. When your name's not getting mentioned on defense, a lot of times that's a really damn good thing, especially at cornerback. So, Golden, good old Dillon Curtis, man, loads of potential, right?
Yep.
You and me have talked about this quite a bit, when he's like before he even committed on into now, right? And when it comes down to it, he had that big moment with the 50+ yarder against UCLA. He struggled here and there, but at the same time too, the kid's got a bright future, and so how important was a bye week like that for him to be able to reset? And what are some of the things that maybe you're hoping that he focuses on? Because, kicking is going to be crucial for Utah the deeper they get into the season.
Oh, absolutely. I'm actually really glad that we're talking about him. And I would love to open it up to the rest of the guys because, and I think, Derek, you and I have had a short exchange on this. I would love to see Dillon shed his identity of being a power kicker. And let me explain to you why. And I think the guys on this call, we can all understand and appreciate we were all labeled or have an identity, whether it be to other people or to ourselves. Like who do I define myself as? I was a power kicker. I was kicking 65, 66 yard field goals in practice. I would hear the oh shit, in the back when I'd kick the ball and the ball would boom off my foot. It just had a different sound compared to the other kickers. It sounded like a slap when they kicked, and mine felt like a bomb. Putting kickoffs through the uprights. And so my identity was how far I could kick. And I'll tell you right now, that doesn't mean anything. It is irrelevant, right? Being a field goal kicker, it's all about putting it through the uprights, and it doesn't matter how accurate it went through the uprights. It could be barely inside the pole. It could barely, I don't know how many kicks Louis Sakota would barely cross the crossbar. But guess what? Best kicker in Utah history as far as King Louis. So I would love to see him shed the identity, the nickname of Dillzilla, as if he's Godzilla out there. He showed up as an All-American kicker in high school, broke the state record. Very first field goal was 54 yards, which is incredible for an 18-year-old. If I'm not mistaken, I think I have the either second or tied for the first longest at 55. So he started off awesome. He immediately showcased what he could do. But then his first 5 or 6 field goals were all over 45 yards. So let's think about it from a different perspective, guys. You go golf, the very first hole that you do out of 18, and it's a long par 4. So not only do you have to hit a long drive in the fairway, your second shot is 200 plus just to hit the green. That's what this kid's walking into, right? And so his identity is, I'm a power kicker. I'm known as a power kicker. That's who I have to be. I want him to shed that. Ideally, I want him to say, hey, look, I'm so strong that I can hit a 3/4 shot and it still goes 55, but it went right down the middle, right? And so for me, the fact that he had those first 5, 6 kicks that weren't ideal for him, and now he's been able to, through Texas Tech and West Virginia, have a couple shorter ones, be able to kick a little bit of extra points, get in a rhythm. To me, him having that mental reset, having that confidence moving into the bye week, that's what I'm looking for, right? I want him to completely focus on what he can control, and that's, hey, look, I don't need to kick the ball over the net. I just need to kick it through the uprights. Right. I don't need to put a kickoff through the uprights. I just need it to be high and far. It doesn't matter, if it goes out the back of the end zone. So it's real easy for me to say that as a 46-year-old man. He's an 18-year-old kid, right? And so I think all the guys on here, like, we all had an identity. Both Micah and Zack were known for breaking tackles, right? That was part of their identity. That is who they were known for. But Zack, correct me if I'm wrong, people had no idea how good you could catch until they saw you catch, out of the backfield, because that wasn't your identity, right? And so for me, like, shedding these identities that we had as players and being multifaceted, Micah took it to a whole nother level in the Rose Bowl. Who the hell knows what he became, with that identity. He was all world at that point. But for me, I just think it's important, as these young kids, they are playing, they don't need to have an identity in that regard where it's just a defined label. Like, be an athlete. So for me as a kicker, my recommendation would be an athlete. Don't be a kicker. Show up and contribute, right, Micah?
Yeah, I like that, because like you said, everybody has their own identity, and I had to find mine when I first got here. I knew what I was good at, but in order for me to play, I had to figure out, okay, I'm gonna be the scat back. Okay, that's gonna be my identity. Nobody gave me that. I gave it to myself because I knew I can catch, and then I had to turn that identity and be like, I know I can run the ball now. So I like what you said about him being accurate and putting it through the uprights. Like, he needs to drop the Legatron, the Dillzilla, and he should be more sharpshooter. You know, I like the name sharpshooter because
Who was that? Who was that Turkish guy in the Olympics? Didn't even wear the thing.
Oh yeah.
That guy, right?
No, exactly.
Like, he didn't need all the fancy stuff. He's just like, yo, man, I'm just gonna show up. I'm gonna pull it out of the holster and bam, I got it.
But yeah, like you said, he's young, so you know it's getting to his head just a little bit that hey, it has to be 54, it has to be 55, it has to be over 40 yards for me to make it. Like, no, guy, we need you. If it's a 25-yarder, we need you to put it through the uprights. Just be more accurate. Drop the legatron and muscling power kicks, and just be a sharpshooter. Kick it through the uprights. However it goes in, it doesn't matter as long as it goes in. Not 50 yards right. You know, you got it there, but it wasn't nowhere near the goalpost. And that's the thing. But he's young, he has time, and that's the beauty about it. He has a lot of time.
Yeah. You know, and it's kind of interesting where, you know, we've talked about fumbling on this, right? And how Kyle has this disdain for fumbling, and if you fumble, you're usually benched. You know, Wayshawn's dealt with it, unfortunately. And but when it comes to the kicking, you know, they've rode it out with him. You know, so I'd love to hear from Golden, any of you guys, just how important something like that is for somebody, you know, at that young of an age, right? That they could have easily just said, you know, after two of the misses in was it the Wyoming game, just saying like, hey, buddy, look, like we got you, we trust you, you're our guy, but sit down for the rest of the game. You know, we just want you to breathe. We want you to soak it all in, take it all in. How important is that for a kicker from that perspective to be able to see that confidence in them and just be able to go and still kick through it as opposed to the typical with if somebody fumbles?
I want to just say this real quick. Ty Jordan, RIP to my dog, but he had a fumbling problem, but he didn't get benched because he was that good. Yeah, Ty Jordan used to fumble a lot in practice. I think he had a couple in the game, but he didn't get benched. You know why? Because the coach has seen the upside in him and what he can do on the field. And that's the same way with Dillon Curtis. He has a lot of upside, so you can't just go bench somebody like that.
Exactly.
That's a fantastic point, Micah. Like, I guarantee you they're not benching Steph Curry for missing a free throw at the end of the game, right? Because guess what that guy's going to do? He's going to win others because you wrote it out. You stuck with them. Like, that ceiling is that high for a guy like Dillon Curtis. He has an NFL leg. Now, he's 18 years old. He's got some time, like Micah already pointed out. In my opinion, and this is obviously a biased opinion, you let him have growing pains. There's no such thing as a kicker who never misses. There's just not. The whole pointing fingers and saying you have one job and one job to do. Oh, really? Okay, I could say that to Zach. I could say that to Derek. Alex, I could say that to you on this podcast that you're going to have to edit, right? You had one job and you still, you know, we're going to have to make an edit somewhere. But so for me, like, I love the fact that he's rebounded, right? He's showing that mental maturity and he's going to grow into it. This bye week, I guarantee you he's worked on the mental aspect probably more than the physical aspect because he knows that that's where he needs to improve. So I have a lot of confidence he's going to have a real good finish of the year. So
before kicking into, you know, just what you guys want to see in the ASU game and some predictions and some over-unders, and we'll get you guys out of here. I'm really curious with Micah and Zach. You know, what when it comes to the running backs, Kate, what are you guys wanting to see now coming out of the bye week where the rushing attack has been effective, right? Plenty of that has been Devin, but Utah just hasn't really had that workhorse running back yet. They haven't. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think one guy has broken 100 yards rushing yet this year. And that's extremely uncommon for Utah. You know, so is something like that, is success sustainable in that fashion? Or, you know, when are we going to see that? And what are you guys wanting to see maybe change in those aspects?
Yeah, like I said, it's, you know, speaking about identity, right? The offense is who the offense is, right? You're not at this point in the year, right? In training camp, fall camp, right? That's when you know who is going to do what. right? That's why you have that, because all that stuff, the foundation is laid, right? You don't continue to add new plays in every week, right? So it's like this stuff right now. Like, there's not going to be someone who just runs away in week 5, week 6, right? The way the offense is built, we talked about is it's a 3-headed monster essentially, right? And Dampier is the head of that. Is the head of that, and things are dictated off of him, right? It's not dictated off of the tight ends or the receivers or even offensive line or the backs. Like, everything runs through Dampier. So those guys have been very good, right? We haven't came on here and had to be like, man, what's going on with the run game? Because it's been so efficient. Because
Right.
Dampier has been able to be a threat with his legs. He's been able to not turn the ball over at a high level and all these different things when it comes to throwing it and making the right decisions, right? So it's the way the offense is built is more for efficiency. And I think they don't mind not having, that one guy, right? I think being able to have 2 dudes back there that, can stay fresh, that's a big thing. And it's kind of just the realm of what football is kind of with backs now. It's kind of every team almost kind of just has 2 guys essentially. It really doesn't even really matter too much anymore. Both teams just have 2 guys, and they usually are a little different from each other. I think, obviously, I think Parker is probably a little bit more of a better catcher than Rodgers, right? He's been able to get out in the space and they throw him the ball, and he's been making plays in that area of things as well. So I think them having that puts a lot more stress on the defense. I think if one of those 2 guys has had the full entire package, then you would just see just one guy. But the way they are able to play off each other, stay fresh, keeps each other healthy. And Dampier is, like I said, he is everything to the offense, right? Like, if he's not going, nothing else really matters. And that's just how the offense is built. That was the main reason why he came here with his OC. So we're not probably going to see anybody just pull away from each other.
Yeah, no, to piggyback off that, it's like, I think they know their role right now, which I don't know if me or Zach would agree with that if we were in the offense. But for me personally, in order for somebody to show what they can do or show that they can get started, you have to be able to string a couple, 2-3 runs together. That's how you get a back started. And I don't think in all these games we've not got neither one of those 2 guys started. And so their carries come sporadically throughout the game, and it's hard for a running back to get the flow of the game and hit the holes properly and stuff like that when, you're getting carries every 6-7 plays. And so I think that's the hard part for them, and not one guy or the other, breaking out, is that they just don't get enough opportunities. But when you have Devin, who's a dual threat, it's hard to get those opportunities.
For sure. I agree with you guys on those. So let's kick into what we're expecting from the ASU game. Go ahead and give your predictions, and then I'll just run through some over unders, see what everybody thinks, and we'll wrap this. So, Derek, man, what are you wanting to see on Saturday, and how do you see it, and how do you see everything playing out?
Yeah, I think from offensive line perspective, one crucial stat that I'm really excited about right now is that Devin has only been sacked 3 times this year so far. And just looking at again, this is stats, so it only tells so much of the story. But in 2024, when he was at New Mexico, he threw 12 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. I believe that and then right now he has 11 touchdowns and only 3 interceptions. So his ratios are doing phenomenal, and I think a big majority of success of that comes from an offensive line that has given him ample amount of time to make those decisions back there. I'm excited to see that continue with the offensive line. If they can keep him clean, I believe Arizona State has a defensive end or tackle, Clayton Smith, that has done pretty well in the sack department, has put pressure on quarterbacks. If they can keep him away from making plays, I don't see, knock on wood, many other threats from a rush perspective on Arizona State side. And so that's a crucial part of the game for Utah's offensive line. And then to our expert running backs points that they mentioned of having the three-headed monster, I believe that starts working as an advantage for this team heading into the back half of the season. You get that offensive line knowing and understanding a little bit of what running back strengths are, who they're going to have in. If they can hold on to the ball and stay in the game, that's just going to compound success. And then obviously Devin back there doing what he does. Defensive line, you hit it on the head. The interior defensive line is going to be something to pay attention to early on. I think with Arizona State's running back, he is definitely more shifty, and I think he plays the perimeter more than going straight up the middle. And so I think that works in our advantage. And then if we can just get pressure on Sam Leavitt and get home early and make him feel that pressure, we're going to have a hell of a day.
Cool. Golden, the kicker that could have played linebacker back in the day too, man. So let's hear your prediction and what you're looking for.
Well, I'm going to throw a score out there just for the sake of just doing it. I think Utes 30, ASU 24. I think wet game, there's going to be a good amount of field goal attempts. I'm going to say attempts because kicking in inclement weather, as Zack has probably seen firsthand, is not that easy. So tell you right now, when there's wind side to side, you have no idea where that ball's going to go. I could kick it perfectly, and 3/4 of the way, all of a sudden it hooks right. It is what it is. So I'm going to make that prediction. I feel like it's going to be a very heavy run game for both teams. I think they're going to try to throw, and they're either going to have a lack of success. And then I honestly hope that Witt and Coach Beck go the full, was it UCLA route where they just have a 10-minute drive and they're just grinding it down and wearing the other team down. So that's my prediction. I feel like there's going to be a heavy amount of run, a lot of kicking attempts, fewer touchdowns. And then the one thing that I'm going to say is I think the Utes in a night game, even if in inclement weather, that stadium's going to be rowdy. We haven't touched on that, right? This is the first night game, fellas. So I'll tell you right now, I am no longer a player. I am a fan. My voice is shot after the games because I'll tell you right now, and I know you guys all remember it, you don't just hear that crowd, you feel it. So, and feeling that crowd and feeling that nighttime home game, I think we have a huge advantage that is being underestimated. So that's my prediction.
Cool. Micah, let's hear it.
Okay. I just want to shout out the feeling the crowd. I remember Oregon when we played Oregon. Felt the crowd, kick or punt return for a touchdown, got to the locker room, felt my bones shaking, and I had a crap attack. I started cramping in the locker room, and it was bad. So, but yeah, I think it's going to be, obviously, with the weather and all that, it's going to be a heavy run, but I don't think that's Utah's offense, and so they're going to need to pass the ball, but I don't want to see no screens and no 5-yard outs and stuff like that, because if I see that, I might tweak out. I might tweak out and leave the game. But I think I'm going to throw a score out too. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think it's going to be probably 17-21, maybe. That's just my prediction.
You going
defense got to hold up well. I'm going you. I don't care what it is. Yeah. They could be blown. They can get blown out. I'm still gonna be like, yeah, they should have won by 30. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, Zack, let's hear it.
Yeah, biggest thing is just the fast start for me. That's all I really want to see is just get this offense really getting off to a good groove. If that's, if the weather holds up for first half of ball, right? All right, hopefully it's some passing the ball attempts and not too much just side to side check down type of throws, right? And if it's, early where the weather is kind of getting to the game a little bit, that's going to play even better for us with the offensive line play. So for me, that's the biggest thing. Just I just want to see how these guys come out, and that's going to be a real big thing. But score wise, I'll probably go, 33-14. I think for us, like Golden said, like playing in that stadium at night, a lot of those guys haven't been in that, right? So it can even be can throw off the guys just a little bit. But obviously we've also been able to cause a lot of crowd noise and a lot of penalties to Texas Tech game, right? So now take that into the night game version of it, right? That's going to help us out a lot, and I think we're going to have a lot of really good field position. So I think with that, looking at it from that, with the crowd noise, penalties, and field position, for us, and I think our special teams obviously can make an impact this week. And usually this coming out for bye weeks, special teams has a chance to really show up because you haven't been doing it and somebody's going to blow an assignment somewhere. So for me, I think we'll have a lot of opportunity to score a lot of points just because we won't have to march down 80 yards every single time, right? And things of that nature, right? I think field position will flip for us, and that'll be a big thing to get guys out of there really fast, run that clock, and secure a big dub at home. So for me, it's just everything just start fast. Like how fast can we start, and just let's not have these penalties where, just things, bullets haven't been really flying for these guys, right? It just gives me, I'm just thinking of all the times where we had the penalties early in the games and starting off slow. Those things just sit there, and it's like, all right, guys have had essentially a whole week off and all those type of things. But as long as guys can start fast, and I think we'll go handle business 33-14.
I'll piggyback off what you're saying there with starting fast. I think that's extremely important. I think they'll put an emphasis on that. Along with that, I also know that one of the biggest areas of concern for Arizona State is their offensive line. So with Utah trying to start fast on offense, I expect them to start fast from the defensive aspect too. And I mean, blitz, just bring that pressure, get them uncomfortable, get the offensive line, lacking that confidence, not even just Leavitt, and so that's going to be highly important. I can't remember. So I already gave my score prediction. For everybody listening and watching on this, we usually do this on Mondays. We decided to do it on Thursday this week, just with how everybody's schedules were lining up. And I filled in for Matt Stanley on the Enemies Perspective podcast with the Arizona State publisher. And I want to say it was either like 30 or 31 to 24, something like that. And man, I gotta get away from constantly saying Utah around 30, but I mean that's the comfort level for me. I mean, I don't know, right? But yeah, starting fast is heavily key on this. So all right, so Derek had to jump off. He had to go get good old pregnant Annie some food. So shout out and congrats to them, by the way. They're expecting their second kid, a little girl this time. So yeah, looking forward to that. They're good parents, man. I've been able to see those guys over the years grow up and just how they've been, and it's been fun to see. So okay, let's do some over unders, and then I'm gonna give the floor to Micah on something here real fast, and then we'll have Zach get us out of here. But over under Leavitt for 250 yards passing in this game.
Under.
It's
Under.
It's weather, but you still got Tyson.
I don't care. I put my faith in Scooby Davis, Minnesota.
Okay. Everybody's going under. I'll go under too. Just for perspective, they're averaging about, I want to say 209, 205 yards a game right now, passing. I do think that it'll improve with that wide receiver coming back, but again, the weather is what's gonna throw a wrench into everything. So, all right. Over under Wayshawn going for 75 yards rushing. I'm not even gonna go to the 100 anymore because I don't know when we're gonna get a 100-yard back.
I'm going under.
I'll go over. I mean, I could be at 76, right? So I'll go over, just because I think he does have a little bit of a chance to hit a home run. I think the carries and opportunities will be there. Obviously, if he's at like 6 to 10, then I mean, obviously my over is going to look like crap. But but I think hopefully, they'll allow him to get a little bit more than 12, 13 carries, so he have a chance to pop one.
For sure.
I'm going to say under, and it's going to be Rodgers with the over.
Okay. Fair. Dude, he just gets yards, man. He gets it done.
Does.
He's been fun to watch.
He gets tough yards. Yep, tough yards.
Dude, he's consistent. So I'll tell you that right now. Like to Zach's point, Wayshawn has that threat to him, but Rodgers he's consistent. So I can see him in a game with weather like this just being that consistent back.
I got a question for Zach. Zach, when they're in the goal line package with Rodgers in that 3-point stance, they tell you got to do that. You doing it?
Does he get the ball?
Yeah.
Probably. If you get the ball.
You going to be that nasty 3-point stance?
As long as you getting that ball and that touchdown, we can figure it out. But if I'm not getting the ball, then I can't do it. There's no point. If I ain't getting it. I'm going to let somebody else get that play.
You know what I'm noticing on all these, Golden, especially because this is the second time I've had Micah on one of these too, and Zach's been on a bunch. Man, running backs can be prima donnas.
Hey, us kickers have had that label forever, so I'm happy to pass the buck to you fellas.
We have one job, and give me the ball. Just make it easy for me, Like, don't put me out on no swing pass. Tell me you're going to throw me the ball. Just hand me the ball and let me do the work. That's how I feel.
Okay, and then I talked about Arizona State's offensive line and how they've been lacking. That's been a weak spot for them so far, okay? Utah has obviously got the nation sack leader, and everybody else is no slouch either. So knowing that they are going to bring that pressure as much as possible, over under – let's go over under 4 sacks.
I'll go under.
I'll go. I'm going to say over, only because Nate Orchard is being nominated into the Utah Hall of Fame, the original Sac Lake City mayor. So because he's going to be in town, he's going to be celebrated. I'm going to go over specifically because of that.
Yeah.
4 sacks is crazy. I'm going to go under.
You're going to go under?
I believe they can do it, but
I thought about putting it at 3, okay? I like
being right more than seeing it happen. I like being right. So
Yeah.
I'm going to go under, but I know it can happen, but I want to be right that it's under.
Yeah. I thought about putting it at 3. I probably should have put it at 3, but and Golden, I love that you mentioned that. Obviously I want to kind of keep the time down on this, and we're already over what I was hoping to do. I know I told Zach the goal here. So, but yeah, I mean, Starlo Talele, Nate Orchard getting honored, in the Athletics Hall of Fame. It's a big honor for both of them. Just two dominant defensive players in the same era. Really right at the start of Utah's ascension in the Pac-12 too, right when Utah was getting started. So they helped lay that foundation for that nasty ass Pac-12 Utah defense. And it's going to be fun to see them getting honored. So, hey, so guys, before we get out of here, Micah, you were talking at this right before we jumped on this, man. You've got a YouTube channel. I want you to go ahead and be able to shout it out, but let everybody know what you're going to be doing at the tailgate on Saturday, and just everybody be on their A game and prepared if you stop by, huh?
Oh yeah, so we're gonna make a YouTube video this coming week. I think it's gonna be a YouTube video. I don't know where it's going, but we're doing rate the tailgate. We're gonna have lots of prizes, and we're gonna come around and see what's going on, see if you got the best tailgate setup, you got the best food, best whatever, and we're going to rate it, and if you're one of the lucky winners, you can win some prizes. So it should be fun, so lock in. I hope the weather permits, because I do not want to do it in bad weather, but yeah, it should be fun.
So for them to be able to subscribe on that, man, where do they got to go?
Oh yeah, just go to YouTube, or you can go to my Instagram bio. It's in there, but my handle is CTBMB. Yeah, please like, subscribe, and comment on the videos. I just posted a new one. I'm in my new crib. It looks different from the last time I was in the video, but I got it set up and it's on there. So if you guys can go run that up, I'll be so happy. So appreciate it.
For sure. Well, Zach, how do we always close these off, man?
Yeah. Make sure you guys continue to like and subscribe. We appreciate you guys tuning in with us. This is the best place to get all your Utah information. So we always appreciate it, and go Utes.
All right, guys.
Utes, baby.
Go Utes.
Appreciate all you guys. Everybody, get to that game. Stay late. Get rowdy. Get warm. Right.
Stay warm.
Get warm. Stay warm. Yeah. Do whatever you have to do to stay warm. Right. And it should be a fun game, and it's the old Pac-12 after dark, so we'll just call it Big 12 after dark now. And Utah and Arizona State have to show everybody how those games are done. So
Yep.
Until next time, guys. I appreciate you.
Absolutely, man.
Appreciate it, Alex.
Appreciate you.
Welcome to the players' lab. Yeah. When no other moment, man, it can't compare. Due to the obvious, people look at me and then they envious.